think my mic is on, and there we go. Good evening. I would like to call tonight's meeting of the Tacoma Park City Council to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Searcy,
Here.
Councilmember Landman, Councilmember DeBala, Councilmember Schlegel,
Here.
Councilmember Gilbert,
Here.
Councilmember Hanzak,
Present.
Councilmember Wesselek.
Here.
Good evening, everyone. This evening, we will start tonight with a number of proclamations. The first is in recognition of Legacy Business Week. The second is the Crossing Guard Appreciation Day. And then the last is recognizing May as Older Americans Month. We will have a presentation this evening on the Metropolitan Branch Trail final design, and then we will have two voting sessions this evening. The first reading ordinance authorizing execution of a contract for repair of flood damage at the Recreation Center, and a single reading ordinance approving a contract extension with Human Circuit. On Wednesday, June the 3rd, the council will meet at its regular time of 7:30. We'll start with two proclamations that evening. The first is proclamation in recognition of Gun Violence Awareness Day, which is June the 5th. And I want to encourage all of my colleagues to wear orange. The second proclamation will be in recognition of Chesapeake Bay Awareness Week. We will have a voting session that evening. It's the first reading ordinance amending the Tacoma Park Code Chapter 2.04 to remove outdated language related to council compensation. And we will have two work sessions that evening. The first is the FY26 Budget Amendment number 4, and the second is the Multifamily Building Improvement Grant awardees. On June the 10th, the council will meet at its regular time of 7:30. We'll have a presentation from the Community Quality of Life Grant awards, and we will also have a the rent stabilization study presentation. That evening, we will have three voting items. The first is the first reading ordinance approving FY26 Budget Amendment number 4. Single reading ordinance awarding multifamily building improvement grants. Second reading ordinance amending the Tacoma Park Code Chapter 2.04 to remove outdated language related to council compensation, and a work session on the National Capital Regional Economic Development, or NED, grant proposals. On Sunday, June the 14th through June the 17th is the Maryland Municipal League Summer Conference in Ocean City. And therefore, because a couple of us will be attending that, on Wednesday, June the 17th, the council will not meet. And as a reminder, Friday, June the 19th is Juneteenth. City offices and facilities are closed Friday and Saturday for the Juneteenth holiday. And so with that, next I am going to read the closed session summary for May the 20th, 2026. The City Council convened at 6:30 p.m. in the auditorium of Tacoma Park City of the Tacoma Park Community Center, 7500 Maple Avenue, to vote to go into closed session to meet with staff and the city's labor attorney to receive a briefing and legal advice on collective bargaining negotiations with ASME Local 3399 and UFCW Local 400. The meeting was closed pursuant to Annotated Code of Maryland General Provisions Article 3-305B9, which permits a meeting to be closed to discuss matters related to collective bargaining negotiations, and 3-305B7, which permits a meeting to be closed to consult with counsel to receive legal advice. Councilmember Gilbert moved to close the meeting. Councilmember Hanzak seconded the motion. The motion carried. Voting for the motion, Mayor Searcy and Council members Landman, DeBala, Schlegel, Gilbert, Hanzak, and Wesselek. The council reconvened in the council conference room. Present for the closed meeting were Mayor Searcy, council members Landman, DeBala, Schlegel, Gilbert, Hanzak, and Wesselek. Also present were City Manager Despirito on Zoom, Deputy City Manager Hupty, Deputy City Manager Eubanks, Human Resources Director Halstead, and Labor Attorney Garrett Wozniak on Zoom, and City Clerk Carpenter. The City Council received a privileged and confidential briefing on labor negotiations with Local 400 and ASME Local 3399. The council asked questions and provided comments. No actions or votes were taken. The meeting was adjourned at approximately 7:55 p.m. Following the closed session, the city council reconvened in the auditorium. Next, I am going to read our Legacy Business Week proclamation. Proclamation of Legacy Business Week, June 1st through the 7th, 2026. Whereas the inaugural Legacy Business Week is established to highlight the importance of longstanding small businesses in Takoma Park and will be celebrated annually in June going forward. And whereas legacy businesses are defined as businesses that have operated in Takoma Park for 10 or more years and have contributed to the community identity and economic vitality of Takoma Park. And whereas the inaugural Legacy Business Week spotlights 10 legacy businesses in Tacoma-Langley Crossroads area for providing needed and desired goods and services to local residents and for their contributions to the history, cultural identity, character, and social fabric of the Crossroads. And whereas these 10 businesses were also chosen because they face unique pressures from a decade of Purple Line construction, a recent increase in immigration enforcement, and increased supply chain costs due to tariffs. And whereas the 10 legacy businesses chosen for the 2026 Legacy Business Week are Dr. Shalel Araya, Dr. Rashid Levi, El Alazan Western Wear, Family Shoes, McDora's Fashion and Fabric, Pretty's Fashion and Jewelry, Pupuseria El Comalito, Red Apple Farmers Market, Sarah Fabrics, and Silver Spring Jewelry. And whereas the City of Takoma Park is observing Legacy Business Week in coordination with the Tacoma-Langley Crossroads Development Authority to emphasize how celebrating legacy businesses directly supports broader economic development goals. Now therefore, I, Talisha Searcy, Mayor of the City of Takoma Park, Maryland, do hereby proclaim support for Legacy Business Week and the small business owners in Takoma Park and encourage residents to support legacy businesses, shop local, and help preserve the economy vitality of the city. All right. And the next is Crossing Guard Appreciation Day, June 2nd, 2026. Whereas the City of Takoma Park is home to thousands of school-aged children whose safety and well-being are of paramount importance. And whereas the city recognizes the important role school crossing guards play in protecting children, supporting safe travel to and from school, and reinforcing pedestrian safety. And whereas each school day, in all weather conditions, dedicated crossing guards help ensure the safe arrival and departure of students and families. And whereas school crossing guards provide an essential public safety service, often under difficult or hazardous conditions, and deserve the respect and cooperation of all motorists. And whereas motorists should remain alert in and around school zones, obey safety laws, and follow the direction of crossing guards to help keep children and families safe. And whereas the professionalism, commitment, and service demonstrated by Takoma Park's school crossing guards merit recognition and appreciation on Crossing Guard Appreciation Day. Now, therefore, I, Talisha Searcy, Mayor of the City of Takoma Park, Maryland, on behalf of the council, staff, and residents, do hereby proclaim June the 2nd, 2026, as Crossing Guard Appreciation Day in the City of Takoma Park, and I urge all residents to join me in this special observance. And last but not least, proclamation of May as Older Americans Month. Whereas older adults are cherished members of the Takoma Park community who have contributed immeasurably to the city's growth, prosperity, and vibrancy. And whereas Older Americans Month is nationally observed in May and recognizes the achievements and sacrifices of older adults, celebrates their ongoing contributions, and encourages all generations to honor and support these individuals. And whereas this year's theme, Champion Your Health, focuses on prevention, wellness, and personal responsibility as cornerstones of healthy aging. And whereas the City of Tacoma Park is committed to creating opportunities for older adults to remain active, engaged, and connected while ensuring their voices are heard and their presence respected in every aspect of community life. Now, therefore, I, Talisha Searcy, Mayor of the City of Tacoma Park, Maryland, do hereby proclaim May as Older Americans Month in Tacoma Park and urge all residents to join me in recognizing the contributions of older adults, fostering connections, and strengthening our ongoing commitment to supporting them throughout the year. Next, we're going to move to public comments on voting items. And just as a reminder, voting items this evening is a single reading ordinance approving a contract extension with Human Circuit and a single reading ordinance authorizing execution of a contract for repair of flood damage at the Recreation Center. Do we have any public comments on voting items? Seeing none in the room, do we have any virtual? No. Excellent. Do we have any general public comments this evening? General public comments. Come on down.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. Jim Del Jacma, Ward 2, where I live in a 4-bicycle household. In late 1998, I arrived in Bethesda, Maryland as a 90-day fiancé. I'd had an administrative error. I didn't have a job, but I had a bicycle, and that's where my love affair with the DMV cycle paths began. In the 30 years almost 30 years that I've been here, the cycling infrastructure has only got better. Slowly but surely, cities, counties, municipalities have all sort of bit by bit, piece by piece, built an amazing network. And here in Tacoma Park, we are at the center of it. And that's one of the reasons I love living here. We're very lucky that from here we can easily get onto the C&O Canal Path. In fact, we can get, which is I think the jewel in the crown of the cycle paths of our region. During the pandemic, it was a real lifesaver in many ways because it just when we were restricted and couldn't get out elsewhere. And from there, I could go all the way to Cumberland and Pittsburgh, which was a great joy. These days, all my great journeys start on the Sligo Creek Trail. They often come up and down here on Maple Avenue, which is the most direct way to get to the Metropolitan Branch Trail, or Metropolitan Beer Trail as some know it, and the National Mall. I've ridden down the MBT to Union Station, and from Union Station taken my bicycle to Vermont for some great riding there as well. The Sligo Creek Trail connects us down via the Anacostia to the National Mall and the monuments, and up to the parks, Wheaton Regional Park and Brookfield Gardens and others. While I'm wearing the Bike to Work shirt, I actually work from home. My commute is very short, but I did take part as a pedestrian in Bike to Work Day and got the T-shirt to prove it. But tomorrow, between my morning shift and night shift, I will take a screen break and I will cycle. I plan to cycle, because the weather's so great, the full DC loop, which will take me down the Anacostia and back up Rock Creek and via Maple Avenue again to Sligo Creek. So there's many rides that are being done, and I'm emphasizing Maple Avenue because I think it needs to be stressed. It is a great connector in our community, particularly for those of us who live in wards 2, 5, and 6 to get to the MBT, which we'll be discussing later. There's a lot of talk about the costs of biking and bike trails, but they make our streets safe. They are a community asset that last for years. They are healthy for a community, and they also bring people to our community to buy things, drink coffee, and even sometimes drink beer. So they're great multipliers, and I commend them to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other general public comments this evening? Do we have any virtual public comments this evening?
We do. We should have Paul Hubner on the line.
Okay. Mr. Hubner, are you there?
was coming.
Okay, no worries.
Do you have me?
We can hear you now.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. And thank you for the recognition. I have to confess to being one of the seniors in the community. So, good evening. Paul Hubner, Ward 3. For everyone on the dais, in the audience, or at home, I want to make sure that you are aware that the recently passed Montgomery County budget will eliminate the current homestead property tax credit. The homestead property tax credit is available to any county resident who's a registered homeowner and who's living in the home as their primary residence. The homestead property tax credit is $692 and appears as a line item on your property tax bill if you have applied for the tax credit. This year's property tax bill will eliminate the homestead property tax credit for every Tacoma Park homeowner who is registered for the credit. Consequently, you will pay an additional $692 in property taxes this year. I asked that our city manager, Mr. DeSpirito, report back on exactly how many of our residents are presently enrolled in the homestead property tax credit program and will have to pay that additional $692 in property taxes. I also asked that our mayor and city council reconsider the 1 cent tax rate deduction to our additional local taxes and instead accept the motion made by Ward 3 council member Roger Schlegel to decrease the local additional property tax rate by 2 cents as he requested. This would help those homeowners who registered for the homestead property tax credit make up for the lost property tax deduction of $692. It would also, of course, benefit all Tacoma Park property taxpayers, even those who did not register for the credit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hubner. Do we have any other general public comments? Excellent. Okay, we're going to move on to council comments. Do you have any council comments this evening? Councilmember Gilbert.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to just quickly say thank you to our Tacoma Park Youth Council for the invite to yesterday's town hall. I had the pleasure of being there, as were some of my colleagues, for one of the 3 sessions that the Youth Council coordinated and hosted, along with Christine Heidebright. Am I pronouncing her last name correct? I'm always butchering people's last names up here. Heidebright. Heidebright. My apologies, Christine, if you're listening. But she's doing a masterful job with our youth council. I sat in on the topic with Will Jawando, who's our county council, one of our county council persons, and we discussed youth incarceration. So I'm glad that he was there because he had so many data points that he shared with the kids at Montgomery Blair High School, my alma mater, by the way. So it was good to be in that building again. And he talked a little bit about the racial disparities that exist and how alarming they are in regards to the amount of African-American youth that are incarcerated as opposed to their white peers. But yeah, good discussion. Again, thanks for the invite. And again, I'm really proud of the Youth Council and the work that they're doing. I also had a chance to attend their meeting last week and see how they operate internally. And they're a group of very focused young people. And again, Christine's doing a good job with them. Juneteenth celebration, the mayor touched on it a little bit earlier. That's going to be for us Saturday, June 20th, just a reminder. It's going to be from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. at the Tacoma Park Middle School, which is at 7611 Pawnee Branch Road. There will be live music, food, vendors, family and fun. I don't want to be lost in the celebration. What we're celebrating, which is the formal end of slavery. And I'll read from Google again. 1865, the Union troops arrived in Galveston, Texas to announce the end of slavery. This is more than 2 years following the Emancipation Proclamation. So we'll be there honoring and remembering the many souls who had to wait before they knew that slavery had ended. So looking forward to that date. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Gilbert. Councilmember Honzak.
Thank you. I will echo the thanks and gratitude to the Youth Council and to Christine Heidebrecht. It was really an awesome opportunity. Councilmember Westlick and I were serving on the same chat that we had with the young people on ICE and immigration. That was the topic we were given. And also along with Delegate Charkoudian and County Council Member Lorianne Sales and some of their staff, and also Kate Stewart's staff, excuse me. And I know several of our other colleagues, including the mayor, were present. I just want to, I want to point out one thing from that event, which really was brought home. We were looking out at an audience that it was pretty clear to me that there had to be a number of kids who probably were either directly impacted at home or their neighbors might be. And they asked some questions, but they then broke up into small groups, and there were probably 60 or 70 kids in the room. There were a lot of kids. And they had a competition to see who had a cool policy idea. And then we were asked to judge in less than 5 minutes which ones were the best. There were lots of great ideas. But the one that won was that the youth suggested that we should hold a virtual space for them to ask anonymous questions where their faces wouldn't need to be seen. And it was anyway, a very powerful suggestion, I thought. They also told me when I passed by their table that they hoped that there could be a conversation about the mental health of young people in light of the current circumstances. And I just thought I'd share that with the public. The mouths of babes always have more truths than some of us older folks. And also such a lovely thank you note. So thank you, Youth Council. Tomorrow night, I assume that Deputy Eubanks might mention again the tree discussion about the WAH campus at 7:30 p.m. Just a reminder. And I'm going to put in a plug again for Flower Avenue celebration, June 14th, Sunday, 2 to 5. Please make sure it's on your calendar. And I want to say thank you to Mr. Jim, and I'm going to always butcher your name, even though you're my friend, Del Giacomo. No. I can never say your name right. But I really appreciate hearing positive comments, first of all, from our residents about things that you appreciate, because the city staff does so many great things. But I also loved hearing your descriptions of our path in the presence of those who are working on our Metro Branch Trail. And since you mentioned Maple Avenue, I'll put in a plug for, I am excited to eventually see some of those designs, I hope with everyone's buy-in and support and all the issues taken care of, that we can move forward eventually on a bike path, a protected bike path on Maple Avenue. And Mr. Hubner, I want to acknowledge, even though I am not your direct council member representative, you do come out a lot, and your passion is evident. And I hear you about your concern about the homestead tax credit. I think we are receivers of that credit. And just to put things into perspective, for me right now, we're living off of $30,000, $25,000 that comes from sitting in this role. So that's, that's about, that's a large percentage of my compensation right now. It's a heavy hit. So I do hear you. I think that it's also an interesting proposition that our city would need to be reactive to the county's decision to figure out how to deal with their dollars and cents. At the end of the day, we residents are the ones that pay the bill. But I'm not convinced that that's good politics or good policy making for us to then react to what the county has chosen to do to make the dollars and cents work. I think that we did what we needed to do and took care of things, and then they did their business. And next year we can reconsider, whether things need to be adjusted. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Honzak. Councilmember Schlegel.
Thank you. I first want to say thank you to those who participated in Saturday's plant removal work at Dorothy's Woods, and a special thanks to those who attended or helped to lead the Youth Council Town Hall last night. I must apologize that I faced the last-minute challenges. It's the end of my teaching year, and there are some times when things are just upon you. I had a 10-hour day of work today related to some of these things. I have been pressed for time in the past 2 or 3 weeks due to family events too. One of them had to do with a graduation from Montgomery College, and I just want to put in a plug for the dual enrollment opportunities that Montgomery College offers. It's just a tremendous resource, and we're so lucky to have Montgomery College right in our community. Mr. Huebner, thank you for your comment and for calling that increased property tax burden to our attention. And I hope we as a city can just be sensitive to this and be responsive to the situations of older residents who are in particular affected by this. Jim, I have been on all the trails you mentioned except to Cumberland and Pittsburgh, and I hope we can keep getting improved routes to Baltimore. I have a goal in the next few weeks of riding to Baltimore, and there is no good way that I can find. I wanted to mention that in the DC DOT is holding a hearing coming up on June 17th to look at improving the access from Rock Creek Park up Joyce Road and then to 14th Street. So that would be a huge improvement if you've ever tried to come up out of the park in that direction. I am excited about the MBT presentation this evening. I know that we're going to lose a few dozen smaller trees and a handful of legacy trees, but I think that the 11-foot planned width, in keeping with the breezeway design standards that Montgomery County is using for like Tier 1 bikeways, is great. And in my experience and observation, these amply wider paths keep pedestrians and cyclists safer, and they encourage much more use. And I think if we look back to the history of Tacoma Park and how important it was when, in the Sammy Abbott era, we opposed that Northeast Freeway, then I really think we can conceive of this MBT construction as part of a happier and greener ending to that saga. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Schlegel. Councilmember Westlake.
Thank you. Ditto on all the things said about the Youth Council. I'll just add that I thought it was really exciting to see a lot of 16 and 17-year-olds registering to vote for our city elections, so that was pretty cool. Reminder about Pride on June 7th. Main Street Tacoma has more information. I already ordered my Free Mom Hugs shirts, as well as shirts for the rest of my family, which if you want to know what they say, I will say it off mic at a different time. But lastly, I forgot last week to say that the part of the sidewalk for 13th Avenue has been completed, and I wanted to give a really big thanks to Public Works. Big thanks to the residents there. It's great. It looks great, but I know there were some challenges along the way, so I just really wanted to give a huge appreciation specifically to Carlos and the Public Works staff. And it looks like the other side of that project is underway. I saw some posts marking off the ground where they're going to be putting in the sidewalk along the Hillwood Manor Park there. So I just wanted to share. Oh, and also I'm very excited that there is a sidewalk poetry poem in the sidewalk there. So that was very cool to see. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Westlake. Thank you to everybody that has come out tonight. In response to Mr. Huebner's comments around the ITAC or the homestead tax credit, I would encourage our residents, one, to become more familiar with the full breadth of the tax changes that the county council made, including changing the the property tax rate to a progressive tax rate, with the idea being that there was going to, I'm sorry, that was the income tax. They did a lot of stuff. So the property tax rate, they tried to not increase the property tax rate. For the income tax rate, they moved to a progressive income tax rate, with the justification being that the modifications to the income tax would make the need or adjust for the need of the ITOC elimination. Now, I'm not on the Montgomery County Council. I didn't have any say-so in it. It was things that were done, quite frankly, over the course of a weekend or two. And I'm looking at Arthur because he was following the crazy as long as I was following the crazy, because there was a lot going on. If you have concerns or questions or thoughts around the tax structures that have been implemented by the county council, because it is not just limited to the elimination of the ITOC, I would encourage you to reach out to your county council members. And I would in no way expect for the city to make up all of the complexities in our budget that just transpired with the county council's budget. Because that thing was on the news practically every night while they were deliberating. So again, I would encourage everyone to, and I'm sitting up here and I was watching the meetings and I'm still trying to compare notes on all of the things that were being discussed. So I would encourage folks to please, if you have questions or concerns about modifications to county taxes that were made during the county council's deliberation of the FY27 budget, to please contact your county council members. And we are still going through aspects of that county council bill, including the impact of the changes to the income tax structure and the impact it may have on the city budget. I am familiarizing myself with the impact of the delays that were put in pretty last minute in school construction, which means that although Piney Branch Elementary is still considered one of the priority schools for rebuilding, what I saw was construction may not start until 2031 because there was a desire to take that capital money and put it towards operational expenses for MCPS so that they can make sure that at least they wouldn't have to eliminate positions. There were a lot of things that were done at the county level that created they had a really, really, really hard job. And I'm very appreciative to particularly Councilmember Stewart, who tried to keep us abreast of all of the different things that were being discussed as part of the county budget reconciliation process, because they had a really hard job. They had to do quite a bit in a very limited amount of time. But again, I just want to stress that we're still trying to dissect all of the changes that happened in the county budget and what it means directly for the city. I'm very happy that we were fortunately able to save our tax duplication dollar amounts, which quite frankly, for a couple of weeks was also on the bubble as a possible reduction because they had some really hard decisions to make. But when it comes to your personal county taxes, in terms of what you pay for income or what you pay for property or any eliminations of property tax credits, I would encourage folks to please contact their county council members. As others have mentioned, I had the joy of participating in the Youth Council Town Hall at Blair yesterday morning. It's been a crazy week, y'all. And so the panel that I was on was with Councilmember Kate Stewart, Delegate Charkoudian, and Councilmember Landman. And we had the ability to talk to the students about youth voting. So I'm glad that a number registered to vote. We also, our exercise with the youth was to have them promote a way to increase youth vote and turnout. And as a Gen Xer, I am ashamed to admit, I didn't first go to social media. And there was one table, they said, you know, not Facebook. Like, no one does Facebook. And I was like, oh, you don't? They're like, no. we're doing Instagram and TikTok. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right, that makes sense. Not for me, but that makes sense for you all. And I actually said, I need young people on my campaign or I'm gonna just lose it all. So I'm very appreciative to the Youth Council for putting that together and for all of the youth that showed up and were engaged. Our session started at 7:45 in the morning, and to see teenagers awake is a big thing. Tomorrow morning is the Hefner Park Historic Marker unveiling, and so that will be bright and early at, I think, 8:30. I'm checking with the deputy. All right, thank you very much. I think it's 8:30 a.m. And so we're excited about that. Just as a reminder, during a lot of parts of the MMPA work, Hefner was identified as a historic site, and so we're excited to have that unveiling. I will also be at the tree meeting with Advances Healthcare tomorrow, so looking forward to that. And on Saturday is the Tacoma Truck Garden. So it's a great way to walk around, experience some booths, drink some beer, and fellowship. And so with that, I will turn things over to Deputy City Manager Eubanks for city manager comments.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, City Council, residents, guests, and staff. The event at Hefner is at 8:30 tomorrow. And from our Public Works Department, a reminder that also tomorrow, Thursday the 28th, from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. in the Azalea Room at the Tacoma Park Community Center, Washington Adventist Hospital, and the city will share information about the proposed tree removals associated with the proposed demolition of the abandoned buildings at the former Washington Adventist Hospital site. The meeting will be recorded. From Housing and Community Development, we are pleased to announce that the city was awarded 2 MWCOG regional roadway safety grants, one to help fund the traffic study of Flower Avenue and another to assist with the design of 2 new intersections in Ward 6, implementing a recommendation of the traffic study completed this past year to convert traffic circles back into intersections. The 2 grants total $180,000, and both projects are anticipated to be started in the summer. From our police department, due to ongoing technical issues that Facebook has been unable to resolve, the Tacoma Park Police Department has been forced to create a new official government Facebook page. Their previous Facebook handle at Tacoma Park PD, is no longer accessible or usable. To continue receiving information from the Tacoma Park Police Department, including community events, weather alerts, crime information, traffic updates, safety tips, and emergency notifications, please search and follow their new official Facebook page at Tacoma Park Police Department. They're currently on the wait list for Facebook's verified badge for the new page and will provide updates once verification is complete. We encourage all community members to share this information so others can reconnect with the police department on their new page. On May 21st, members of the Emergency Preparedness Committee, along with dedicated volunteers and guests, assembled more than 275 individual hygiene kits for community members in need. Each kit includes essential items such as socks, towels, hair care products, skin and oral care supplies, wipes, tissues, and more. These supplies were made possible through a grant awarded to the city by PEPCO to support the development and outfitting of a new resilience hub. The hub will serve as a resource to assist residents who are most vulnerable to and impacted by emergencies and disasters. We extend our sincere thanks to the Emergency Preparedness Committee, members and volunteers whose time and commitment made this effort possible. Stay tuned for future community preparedness events and volunteer opportunities. Also from the Tacoma Police Department, Tacoma Park Police and Inova Blood Donor Services are once again teaming up to host a Tacoma Park Community Blood Drive on Saturday, July 11th between 11:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. Your selfless acts of donating blood can help save lives, and it only takes a short amount of time. Let's come together as a community to positively impact the health and well-being of those in need. Register today. A link will be provided in the posted city manager comments. We hope to see you at the Tacoma Park Municipal Center, 7500 Maple Avenue, Tacoma Park MD Azalea Room on the 2nd floor. And that concludes the city manager report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we're going to move to our first presentation this evening, the consultant presentation of the Metropolitan Branch Trail final design.
Oh, is it okay? Okay, there we go. Good evening, council, mayor. My name is Kaysan Webley. I am the transit planner for the city of Tacoma Park, and I'm just introducing the project and our consultants. RKNK, we have Rob Gillespie and Emily Martin, who will be doing the bulk of the presentation. And as we've been doing in the past, I just wanted to put the project in the context of the work we are doing in the planning department. So the Metropolitan Branch Trail falls into the project category, one of many, some new ones and some ones that have been ongoing. So we're very excited to see that we're moving towards the end of the Metropolitan Branch Trail and hopefully to construction soon. Over to Emily.
All right, hello. Thank you for having us out again to be able to present this great project to y'all. So as most of you know, the Metropolitan Branch Trail Project will aim to improve bicycle and pedestrian safety by providing a wider and newly paved surface while also adding continuous trail lighting and then wayfinding signage. The project is also aiming to upgrade all pedestrian ramps and bus stops to ADA compliance, while also improving safer intersection crossings by adding signing and improved pavement markings. So now diving into the project location, as most of y'all know, this section of the Metropolitan Branch Trail begins at the DC line and continues along Tacoma Ave on the west side of Tacoma Ave, and then along Fenton Street on the west side of Fenton Street up to the intersection of Fenton and New York Avenue. On the west side of the trail is the Metro Red Line, and the City of Tacoma Park portion of the trail sits right in the center of 3 activity centers. An activity center is defined as a major destination within a large metro area that attracts a significant number of people, jobs, tourists, and they're typically connected by a transportation connector like the Met Branch Trail. So this area is primed for needing an improvement just like this one. So a little bit about the project background. So as a part of the Tacoma Park Master Plan in 2000, it was written to build the Metropolitan Branch Trail as a part of the county-wide trail system. There'd be a direct continuous trail that pedestrians could use that would parallel the Metro Red Line. In 2018, Montgomery County identified this section of MBT as part of their breezeway network, which is basically defined by having adequate trail widths that allow for side-by-side cyclists. They also are identified by having that wayfinding signage that can help users not only figure out where they are within the city portion of the Metropolitan Branch Trail, but connect to the larger county part of the MBT. These trails also have that continuous trail lining as well as part of their breezeway network. So where this project has been throughout the years, it started off with an MWCOG grant in April of 2022. This allowed the project to get through preliminary design by May of 2023, and then was concluded with the City Council presentation then in July of 2023. The project was then reinitiated under MDOT Bikeways funding in September 2023. It took a little bit of time to get a consultant on board, but once that happened in August of 2024, we were able to move forward in design and have that 60% design update in October of 2025. And then the last time I was here presenting on that 60% design was in September of 2025. And just the beginning of this year, we finished the 95% design in January of 2026. and that is the design I'll be presenting to you this evening. Our next steps will be ironing out the last little bit of design and then getting final permits and approvals. So some updates on the community engagement that's occurred since the last City Council presentation. The City of Tacoma Park staff has completed a site walk. They've had a few bike safety roundtables where they've engaged with citizens and users, as well as have a bike to work tabling to help get the messaging out about this project. We also have continued agency stakeholder coordination. As I mentioned earlier, that 95% design was completed in January of 2026, and since then we have been actively engaging with WMATA, CSX, and all utility stakeholders to keep them apprised of the latest design and get their approvals as the design is continuing, and then hopefully have final approvals with the 100% design. So now moving into the meats and potatoes of the presentation, the Metropolitan Branch Trail. So this is a typical section. This is the part of the trail that parallels Tacoma Avenue. This, you can see, is we are proposing that 11-foot width. The current trail is about 8 feet wide today, 10 to 8 in certain areas. So getting this 11-foot wide trail is going to be able to be much more comfortable, much safer for the users, allow that side-by-side cyclist, have people walking and riding at the same time. We're also maintaining that existing street buffer as much as possible. This also will help prioritize safety, so the vehicles and pedestrians or cyclists can be as separated as possible to have a safe ride for everybody. Also maintaining the street buffer is important because there are so many beautiful trees in that street buffer. So it's great to be able to keep that existing tree canopy as much as possible. This area in particular, I want to point out that fence that is on the west side of the existing trail. That is the WMATA fence. This is kind of a project constraint for us. We want to obviously widen the trail as much as possible, but we want to keep our grading and impacts out of that fence line as well. So here's another proposed typical section of the project, this time along Fenton Street. Again, you can see that 11-foot wide width and maintaining the street buffer. But here you can see much more clearly the continuous trail lighting that we're proposing that for the majority of the project will be on the west side of the trail. And here is an existing condition site photo. This is looking south along Tacoma Avenue. You can see where a lot of that overgrowth or brush has really started to eat away at the width of the trail. So what was maybe at one time a functional 10 feet is closer to 8, 9 feet today, which doesn't allow for that side-by-side cycling safely. I do want to note there are a significant number of trees in this area. You can see from this photo, again, in that street buffer, there's some trees that we would want to try to maintain, as well as some thicker trees or some heftier diameter trees that we would want to maintain to help keep that beautiful shade that you can see the trail has today. And here's a rendering of our proposed condition. You can see the trail widening. We were able to widen all to the west side of the existing trail, so that way we'd keep the trees in the street buffer. You can also see, again, that continuous trail lighting that we'd be adding along the west side, and then you can see a little bit further down past the light pole is that wayfinding signage that, again, will help connect this section of the MBT with the larger breezeway network of Montgomery County. And so here I'm going to zoom in to just one intersection within the project limits. This is at Tacoma Avenue and Buffalo Avenue. In the existing condition, there is a raised crosswalk just to the south of the intersection. There are also 2 existing ride-on bus stops in the northbound and southbound direction. And then I also want to point out the WMATA tracks that are just on the west side of the Met Branch Trail. Here's a screenshot of our proposed improvements. The first improvement we're proposing here is relocating that existing raised crosswalk from the south side of the intersection to the north side of the intersection. This is going to help really consolidate pedestrian movements at the intersection. Currently, pedestrians will cross the street and then have to find the bus stops further away from each other, and bringing that crossing closer together is going to help really limit the amount that pedestrians have to traverse the intersection. Another proposed improvement we have is the curb line bump out at the northeast corner of the Buffalo Avenue intersection. This was to help decrease the length of the crosswalk here, so that way pedestrians aren't in the roadway as long at that location. We've also proposed relocating the 2 right-on bus stops for the same reason we're relocating the existing crossing to help consolidate the intersection. I also want to point out on the west side of the trail at this location, we're proposing a timber retaining wall. This is to alleviate grading impacts because there are a lot of really nice trees behind this location, and if we were to let the trail just grade out naturally, it would cause the removal of those trees. So adding this timber retaining wall is to help preserve the trees back there as well as avoid impacts to that WMATA fence that comes very close to the existing trail there. So here's another existing conditions photo. This is the trail spur that connects the main line Metropolitan Branch Trail down to the intersection of Fenton and Tacoma Ave. This is a location where we've worked hard with Tacoma Park staff to decrease our number of tree impacts. Previously, we had been widening this section asymmetrically, which was causing the removal of 2 of these 4 trees you see on your screen. But working with Tacoma Park staff, we were able to widen the trail, but this time symmetrically, and then we were able to preserve all 4 trees, which you can see in this rendering. The existing spur is about like 7 to 8 feet wide, and we're getting up to about 10 feet wide here. So in the same location, but an aerial view, this is at the Fenton and Tacoma intersection. You can see that Met Branch Trail, the main line, and then that trail spur I was just talking about on the previous slide. In existing conditions, there is a small bike repair station that has a tire pump. And then also in existing condition, there are existing metered parking spaces that are along the southbound direction of Tacoma Ave. And then there are also 2 right-on bus stops along Fenton Street in the westbound and eastbound direction that neither are ADA compliant today. So with our proposed design, we are proposing upgrading both of those bus stops to be ADA compliant. As with this design, along with that, at all 4 corners of the Tacoma and Fenton intersection, we are upgrading all of those pedestrian ramps to be ADA compliant as well. And then we are also proposing upgrading the bike repair station to have more space for people to pull off the trail to do whatever maintenance they need to do. Also, new bike racks and a new pump station as part of the design. We are also proposing a stormwater management facility in the existing metered parking spaces in the southbound direction of Tacoma Ave. I want to note this will not change the functionality of these parking spaces. Once construction is complete, users can still park there as they do today. You can see at kind of the bottom right-hand corner of this image, there's another proposed permeable paver system and the existing metered parking spaces, but these are to be constructed separately through a different budget. So moving further along the Met Branch Trail, this is looking northwest along Fenton Street. You can really see here is a great example of what you can see throughout a lot of the trail is the roots have started to come up and become a tripping hazard throughout the trail. So this time I want to point out that part of our trail construction, we are going to be lifting the finished grade just a little bit of the trail, so that way over time you should see less of these roots being able to come up and cause these tripping hazards. It will be a final asphalt surface like it is today. So here is a proposed rendering of that work. Again, I want to note how we are still maintaining the trees that are in the street buffer throughout this area. This is kind of where the thickest canopy is and some of these trees that parallel Fenton Street. Again, you can see that continuous trail lighting along the west side as well as the wayfinding signage. So I know I just went through a lot of detail, so I'll summarize some of those key features. To me, the biggest and most important, that wider trail, you're going to be able to facilitate the side-by-side cycling. Cyclists and pedestrians can both use it comfortably. And then also adding the wayfinding signage to key in the Tacoma Park portion of Met Branch Trail with the larger network. The addition of the new bike racks at the bike repair station. Also adding that continuous trail lighting helped to improve safety and visibility. And then improve street crossings, especially at Buffalo Avenue. And then the upgrade of ADA compliance, not just at pedestrian ramps, but also at those right-on bus stops. And then also the addition of the stormwater management facility in the existing metered parking lane along southbound Tacoma Ave. As with all good things, there are some impacts. Luckily, we've worked hard to minimize these as much as possible. There are no right-of-way, utility, railroad, street parking impacts. However, there are a few tree impacts. We've worked hard with City of Tacoma Park staff to decrease these as much as possible. There are a total of 131 trees impacted, but of those 131, only 62 of them are considered to be urban forested trees. And then of those 62, only 58 of them are under 20 inches in diameter, which is pretty representative of the approach we tried to take with this design, where we would prioritize if we had to impact a tree, we would impact trees that aren't providing the largest shade, the largest canopy, the beautification that that area has. So to touch on some of those design changes we made to minimize tree impacts, one I mentioned earlier, raising the trail profile to decrease the excavation into the root zones of the trees. Another one I also mentioned earlier was that trail spur widening symmetrically to avoid those 4 trees in the green space. We also relocated where the proposed bike repair station was going to go, away from some significant trees. We adjusted the trail alignment at the beginning and end of the project to prioritize, again, the street buffer trees. They're providing a lot of shade. We adjusted the trail lighting away from favorable trees, and then we've also moved the lighting conduit into the footprint of the trail, so that way the excavation of the conduit would not affect the roots. And then we relocated the proposed stormwater management facility, previously proposed for a green space, into those existing metered parking spaces to avoid trees. And then, of course, we're also utilizing the latest tree protection techniques, such as root pruning and air spading, to save trees as well. So finally, on to project costs and next steps. The current estimated cost is $2.3 million. The NEAT construction cost is $1.95, and then associated construction admin and management inspection fees is a little over $300,000, and then the current tree replacement cost is quoted as $37.5. As I mentioned earlier, our next steps is to finalize design and secure final permit approvals, which we're hoping to have done by the end of 2026. And with that, I'm going to hand it to Casey to talk about funding and SHA coordination.
Thanks, Emily. So we have been coordinating with SHA, well, not quite yet with SHA, but through Maryland Bikeways. We've been working with them, and because we've applied for funding through Jamie Raskin's office, we've appended a federal nexus to this project. And so that brings in a NEPA consideration. So we'll be working with NEPA and SHA to coordinate and be able to fulfill those requirements as well. So as I've mentioned, we have put forward to the congressional appropriations for $1.8 million. We've been assigned about $1 million after subcommittee worked through, marked it up. So we have $1 million that's moving forward so far. And we also have about $500,000 from the legislative bond initiative as well that's assigned to us. So we're working on securing funds for construction to get us to that next step. And we will be posting a copy of this presentation on the webpage. And if you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out to me or to Roz. And I'll take any questions you have now.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And I do want to thank our District 20 delegation for securing the $500,000 during the last legislative session. and definitely appreciate Congressman Raskin and his staff for continuing to try to push forward bond funds for us. And fingers crossed, you know, it's not done until it's done, but I am hopeful that they'll be able to continue to move this project forward. One question that I have is actually about stormwater management, and I was just wondering, will, aside from this particular intersection where it seems pretty clear that we would need stormwater management along the curb cuts and things like that, in those areas where we are increasing the amount of impervious surface and we're talking about the retaining wall, I think near the train tracks, are we just going to use grading to kind of help with channeling any water along those stretches?
Yes, yeah. At this point, pretty much all water is going to where it is going today. It's just a slightly increased amount of it. But we have done stormwater calcs, and with the additional facility that's being proposed under the separate budget, we will be covering all additional runoff with that facility.
Excellent, thank you. Councilmember Honzak?
Thank you. That was also one of my questions. That's interesting. So I have a handful of questions. The first is regarding the timber retaining wall. Is there a particular reason why you're suggesting timber, or is that open to discussion? And the reason I ask is I get concerned about long-term maintenance costs for something that's this expensive on the front end, and timber usually isn't as long-lasting in my own experience and observation around the city.
Yeah, so timber was chosen for a few different reasons. One of them being the wall height is not very tall, so it doesn't require, you know, something as heavy as like a precast concrete wall. So since it's not that tall, we don't need a heavier. And then also on top of that, in order to minimize the, if you were to go in and install a concrete wall, you'd have to lay back the slopes, which would then endanger the trees behind it anyways. So then there would be no longer a need for the wall. You may as well as do your grading. So with a timber wall, they're able to just go in and auger in the posts and then place the wall. So that way it's able to be constructed with as little disturbance to trees as possible.
I see. So is there any such thing as like stone pavers that could last a little bit longer?
A modular
I'm
block
just thinking.
retaining wall would also have your same sort of layback slopes.
I see. Okay, thank you.
That type
Thanks
of
for
design.
affecting the trees. Okay, thank you for explaining that. And then regarding the lights, again, this is sort of a long-term maintenance question. And this may be more for our staff, I see the renderings of the lights. I'm curious whether we have any similar type of lights in the rest of the city, or whether I'm thinking about the long-term maintenance of these lights and thinking about some of the other special lighting that we have, such as up in Ward 5, where it's been kind of tricky as they get older to replace the parts, then to sort of say, oh, we want a matching light. And so I'm just wondering, could you just speak to that a little bit so that we can imagine the future?
Yes, that's a really good question. We'll be pulling from our streetscape manual so that we'll have lighting that is already in the city so that we can have parts that are on hand. And as you very well say, sometimes suppliers go out of business and we have to change over our fixtures, various types of things, benches, lighting. So this is something that we'll try and minimize a new type of fixture, but that will be informed by our streetscape manual.
So does that mean that these lights are maybe like unique to Tacoma versus matching the rest of the Met Branch Trail? I guess that's what I was thinking, is that we might be sort of dependent on the county for something like that, and whether we're set up for that.
No. We can choose.
We'll have
what we
our
want to
own.
have. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for clarifying. And then a couple other little questions. One is, I didn't see any places to like rest spots along the trail, and I'm curious if that was ever considered. And then the last thing is something I brought up the last time you guys came, and I didn't hear it mentioned today. There is, to my knowledge, currently an Indigenous peoples historical marker on the trail. It wasn't brought up again today. Is there a plan to replace it? I hope so. And if so, what's the plan?
Yes, yeah, so I can speak to the rest. So that bike station that is in, let's see if I can pull up that slide. the bike repair station, like I mentioned, it's going to be a larger concrete pad for people to be able to pull off and to be able to fix anything they need to. Also, that entire green space today does have like a decent amount of like refuge area if people were needing to pull off and rest for a moment. And then also on what is the opposite side, the bus stop here that is in the northbound direction, we'll actually have a bench. I believe there's one there today, so we're going to be re-proposing a bench there as well. But as far as along the rest of Met Branch Trail, there isn't a lot of space to be able to provide like full rest areas. So my biggest suggestion would be in that larger green space near the trail spur at Tacoma and Fenton, is kind of where there's the most amount of room for people to be able to pull off, rest, take a breath, catch up with their friends.
So there is a bench in that rest area when you say there's a refuge space, or there isn't one?
It's a green space, so it's just a larger, it's
Yeah,
a
there's no-
flatter green space. It's
But right
not
now-
a paved
okay.
area that they could
Yeah.
exit the trail if
Okay.
needed.
Be something we could think about maybe. Okay, and then the historical marker, thanks.
Yes, so there is a historical marker. We are aware of it. We do plan to refresh it. Once we are underway with construction funding, we will engage with the public so that they can have input on what that should look like going forward.
I know I'm re-upping a repeat issue, but I have read it some time ago, and it seemed to me very outdated language, very kind of archaic.
Okay.
Going from dinosaurs to native peoples. And I would love to see the city not do it as a last minute thing, but to really engage with the Piscataway people who we've done a good job in the past several years of trying to do better by the historical peoples that have lived here. And I think, I don't know if who knows this better than me. I'm sure anybody, but the county had some really interesting. The county parks department had like 8 archaeologists who came out to the Sligo Creek playground and were digging up all sorts of cool stuff. And I would imagine also that we could approach some of our Piscataway representatives from around the local area, among others, who might be able to help really give that proper due diligence, because to my knowledge, there is not any other historical marker in our entire city, and it would be worth taking a moment. And anyway, I'm happy to, engage on strategy if that's helpful, or I'm sure other council members would also be interested.
Thank you for that.
Councilmember Schlegel.
Thank you for bringing that up, Councilmember Honzak. And certainly, yeah, I would support that too. We were discussing this in Ward 3 at Spring Park, where there is a much beloved sculpture, but it's unfortunately reinforcing what's surely not a true historical truth, that Powhatan never really was in this area and wasn't of a local tribe. So yeah, we have a ways to go with that, but I just want to reinforce what was said. I just had a couple of questions. I think it seems like there hasn't been a lot of change since the last time, and I'm really happy about it. And but my question that I hadn't thought about before was concerning the Catherine Isaiah Leggett building across the street on Fenton Avenue, and the fact that it has it kind of has a double entrance, because there's a driveway that swings up and then back out like a C-shaped driveway. And I think there's a bike rack there. And so I wonder whether cyclists or pedestrians could use a safe crossing, or because they might be encouraged to jaywalk and just to hop on the trail right there rather than walking along the long block up to Chicago. Is that something that might be still possible at this time?
So we had actually looked at adding a crossing there that had come at actually Montgomery County's suggestion to look at. One issue we found at putting one there is having an adequate place for people to wait to cross. And what I say by that is there is not a lot of space between getting your wide trail, 11-foot wide trail, and then when you talk about maybe adding 5 feet behind that for someone to be able to wait to cross, you're into the rail, you're into the property, CSX fence behind that. So that's why we forgoed that option.
Okay, understood. And then, did you consider just a ramp there in case people are popping down directly across from one of the driveways?
We had not considered that, but we could look at it.
And maybe a crosswalk might signal to drivers that you could have some jaywalkers, otherwise jaywalkers, but you could have some proper walkers invited to directly get onto the trail. I know there's a sidewalk on the other side of the street too. Okay. My other question was just about the lighting design. Just thinking about the research that we know about pollinators and the need to try to direct light downward and confuse as few insects as possible who are drawn to lights, and that can affect their ability to reproduce. And do you know how directed the light would be?
So I think our policy is to have a dark sky type of lighting, and so we'd be following that.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Schlegel. And quick question about the lighting. Are we doing the LED? Yep, okay. Just wanted to confirm that. I knew the answer would be yes, but I think, you know, it also plays a role when we're talking about long-term costs and sustainability, so. Great. Okay, I am not seeing any additional lights, and I just want to say thank you so much to our consultant team and to our staff for all of the hard work that you all have put in on this. We are really excited about seeing this move forward, and I will say it has been an easier sell for resources. So it's much needed, and I think everyone in the region can benefit once this thing is completely built out. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your support. And I always want to thank the Public Works team as well. They've been a very integral part in making this project come through this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so next up is our voting session this evening. The first is the single reading ordinance approving a contract extension with Human Circuit. Just want to confirm with staff whether or not there's any modifications that have been made for discussion.
There are no modifications.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, so with that, would someone like to move it?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Wesselek. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Schlegel. Any points of discussion on this one? Seeing none, and Councilmember DeBala has not joined us, correct? Okay, no worries. And so with that, all those in favor, oh, is this an ordinance? Okay, would the clerk please call the roll? Okay. No worries.
Councilmember Landon, Councilmember DeBala, Councilmember Schlegel.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Councilmember Schlegel,
Yes.
Councilmember Gilbert,
Yes.
Councilmember Honzak,
Yes.
Councilmember Wesselek,
Aye.
Mayor Cersey.
Aye. Next item is a single reading ordinance authorizing execution of a contract for repair of flood damage at the Recreation Center. Are there any points of discussion from staff on this one?
We don't have anything to offer beyond what's in the memo, but we're able to take questions if there should be any.
Great, thank you so much. Would someone like to move it?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Wesselek. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Gilbert. Any points of discussion on this one? Okay, seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Landman, Councilmember DeBala, Councilmember Schlegel,
Yes.
Councilmember Gilbert,
Yes.
Councilmember Honzak,
Yes.
Councilmember Wesselek,
Aye.
Mayor Cersey.
Aye. All right, so with that, the meeting is over. This is a record. Wonderful. Well, everyone have a fantastic night.